Welcome to the Two Pages Project, part of the Coil Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Rob Steele. Just a reminder about the programming, we are still every other week because I can only write so much. I need your stories to keep this show going. So please send them in. If you need more details, stay tuned after the show or check out the website, twopagesproject.com. Number 2, I'll explain why you don't write it out later. First, let's get to this week's story, where with Halloween coming up, sure, why not, let's follow Lieutenant Cooper Wright back to August Acres, where someone has found a skeleton in a closet. Unfortunately, this isn't some well-kept secret, it's a real skeleton. So follow along in the story, Skeleton Under the Closet, by Rob Steele. Third time this month. I swear I get called out to August Acres more than I get called by my wife. I know you hear me gripe about it almost every story I tell. Thing is, I don't tell you every case. Just the weird ones that I think are interesting. I get about 3 calls a month to this subdivision. It's just weird. August Acres is one of the newer subdivisions in town. It's not a poor neighborhood. It's not a rich neighborhood. Pretty much middle class all the way. But about once a week, a husband cheats on his wife, so she shoots him. Or you could reverse that. Or someone forgot to put the cat out and gets shot for it. Or forgets to put out the trash for pickup. Or puts out too much trash that isn't really trash. Or some other equally pathetic excuse. It's times like these I wish we didn't have such an obsession with guns in this country. You need a license to drive a car or get a library book, but not a gun. I don't get that. This case, however, is a bit different. The address says it's deep into August Acres at the apex of a cul-de-sac. I wasn't really sure it went back this far. Just to get out of the way, I stop off at Cinderella Disney's house on the way in. She lives toward the front of the subdivision and knows just about everyone. She's helped on a few cases. Unfortunately, though, not this one. She says she's never even heard of the Holmwoods. So much for an easy end to this case. I suppose I should have known it wouldn't be this easy. Technically, the Holmwoods moved out about 10 weeks ago. I've got Detective Manny Vasquez tracking him down back at the station. The story as I know it, well, it's probably better if I let the real estate agent, Levy Maya, explain. I was just showing the house to the Garzas, and since Halloween is coming up, I did my usual sight gag. I put a skeleton in the closet of one of the rooms. Usually it gives the client a bit of a start, but it makes the house memorable. And the Garzas are looking for a house just like this one, so I figured it would be a shoo-in, right? It has never backfired for me like this before. I forgot that Hector, that is Mr. Garza, just retired from the military and is moving back here. Something about PTSD. I forgot entirely. When I mentioned the closet had a lot of room, he opened it and saw the skeleton. Now, it's just a Halloween prop. And Helen, that's Mrs. Garza, screamed, and he punched my skeleton. Shattered it into I don't know how many pieces. But when he did that, he also put his foot through the floor of the closet. And when he took it out, we saw that under the floorboards was this plastic bag. Well, we all thought it was drugs at first. Something white showing clear through a plastic bag? But that smell wasn't drugs. It was death. There really was a skeleton in the closet. Well, under it anyway. And that's what he told me when I first pulled up. Officer Doug Adams apologized to me when I got to the door of the house. He said he was busy taking a statement from the Garzas and lost track of Mr. Meyer. I asked if he's the only officer here, and he says everyone else is busy with a protection duty tonight. But there is one more inside with Dr. Young. The president is coming through town on some kind of parade that isn't a parade, but since the Secret Service is short of money, they recruited us. I get a statement from the Gazas, and it pretty much matches Mr. Maya's story. I guess you'll continue house hunting, eh? Mrs. Gaza, who has this oddly gothic aura, perked up.
Are you kidding me? A house with a real body hidden in the basement? We'll sign the papers once you guys... what is it? Clear the scene? Think of the stories we could tell. I mean, a murder in the house? That's awesome. I mean, not for the victim.
Her rant continued for a while and meandered from the victim in the house to her obsession with CSI, the television program. Although, at the mention of buying the house, I do see Levi Maya's expression light up. I tell Adams to finish up here with the statements to make sure to get everyone's contact information. If there's a skeleton here, it's probably not these people who did it. But we may have questions later. I enter the house, a cute little two-story. I follow the noise of the real CSIs to a bedroom on the first floor. It appears as though this house has the kids' rooms upstairs, but the parents, they get to be downstairs by themselves. Not a bad layout. The master bedroom opens into a bathroom, which has a closet that looks like it has 3 people squeezed into it. "Cooper, I'm glad you're here," calls our coroner, Dr. Song Ho Young, from the back left corner of the closet. To his right is Henry Ruth, the new coroner's assistant, and in the doorway is an officer I don't know. "We'll hold the body in place, but see if you can dislodge that bottom foot. It's caught on something." I look in the closet, and while it is rather large, not quite walk-in size, but, it wasn't made for 3 people. Especially since there's a hole in the floor. Sure enough, there is a skeleton down there wrapped in plastic. I glove up because plastic can have fingerprints too and help dislodge the skeleton. Once it's disconnected from a random nail, the skeleton is easily lifted out and we manage to get the rather smallish frame on a gurney. As Doc and Henry roll the body out, it gives me the opportunity to look in the hole in the floor to see what else is down there. I borrow the officer's flashlight, Officer Kraft, at least according to his badge, and shine it down the hole. There isn't a whole lot down there. Lots of dust, some dirt, and a hinge. The hinge looked like it broke off, and this was supposed to be a secret hidey hole for something. The skeleton looked a bit small, but I'm guessing it wouldn't be a good hiding place for people. Drugs, maybe? I should probably get the vice dogs to come sniff around. But that can come later. First, we need to find out who was under the house, how that person died, why they were left there, and who did it. Always questions with this job. Time to find some answers. I do a walkthrough of the house, and since it's on the market, it's pretty empty. They left the oven and the refrigerator, but took the dishwasher. All the light fixtures are still here. Carpets are clean. Probably freshly cleaned, too. There aren't any signs that our Vic was killed here. I'm assuming murder since it's really hard for natural cause and suicides to wrap themselves in plastic and hide in a cubbyhole under a bathroom closet. I decide to leave the rest of the house to the CSIs. Time to talk to the neighbors. The questioning doesn't take very long. Only 3 other houses are occupied in this section of the subdivision. Pretty empty for a cul-de-sac. The neighbors all say about the same thing. Everyone here stays pretty much to themselves. The Holmwoods were a nice family, but a little over the top on the Christianity, which fits as members of the Spirit-Filled Evangelism Center. There's a mouthful. The last neighbor I talked to, Kay Anson, the first neighbor to the left, says there was something a bit odd about the last couple months they were there.
They had a daughter, Leah, I think. I heard them arguing one night, but that was months ago. Come to think of it, I don't remember seeing Leah after that.
You didn't call when you heard the argument?
No, I guess I should have, but, I don't know. I didn't mean it to sound that intense, and you know how teenagers can get.
Yeah, I know. I thank her for her time and make my way back to the morgue to see how Doc Young is getting on with our victim. I suit up before I enter the operating theater. The full hazmat suit minus the helmet, but I do have a plastic face shield just in case. I've been here before when an autopsy is going on, and it can get messy. As I enter, I notice a skeleton has been debagged and is lying fully outstretched on an autopsy table. On the slab next to it, there's a ring and what looks like the remains of a bloody crucifix. A big one, like the one you see paraded around in a church. Hey, Doc, what's with the crucifix? Doc Young looks up from the skeleton skull that he was examining closely and says, I'm pretty sure that's your murder weapon. It was in the bag with her. If you look at the skull here, I've been matching up that crucifix and this wound. Is a pretty good match. I'm going to have someone from ballistics come down and verify. Using my phone, I take a picture of the crucifix. Then I put the ring in an evidence bag. Wait, no assumptions. Doc, this ring was in the bag too, right? He nods and returns to his examination. Small ring, and very feminine. This is a woman, right? Doc turns again and smiles. You've been paying attention, Cooper. I'm very proud of you. You could tell from the hips, right? I just nod. Actually, I'd guessed that from the small feminine ring and the daughter that no one saw after a yelling competition seems to be missing. But if it makes him happy. Judging from other structural characteristics, I'd say she was in her late teens, maybe early 20s. I thank Doc and make a note in the evidence log that I'm taking the ring with me. I think it might help identify the woman in plastic. I take the ring and the picture on my phone to the Spirit-Filled Evangelism Center. I'm not much of one for religion, but I am passingly familiar with these people. They believe that the word of the Bible is absolute. I have my doubts. Just logic alone gives me issue on the whole Noah's Ark thing. 2 of each animal on the planet. Please, like 2 penguins wandered up to the Middle East to get on a boat. Eventually, I'm greeted with one of the priests, Father Evander Carr. I ask him if he can identify the ring. Oh, yes, I believe that belonged to Leah Holmwood. It's one of our confirmation rings. Every year, a group of our young take several classes to become closer to the church. Rather than a diploma or a certificate you hang on the wall, our students get one of these to wear instead. I'm a bit confused. How can you tell that this is Leah's ring? I look the ring over a bit more. Are they all unique, or is there some marking or something? No, we only started the practice I believe it was about 7 years ago now. I know all the youths who have gotten one, and they all attend regularly and always wear the ring. Leah's the only one that hasn't attended in a while. Process of elimination. I nod and thank the priest, but before I leave, he puts a hand on my arm and says, I know you don't believe as we do, and I respect that. To each his own. But you should know that Leah had some troubles. Her parents disowned her a while back. They said something about her, what was the phrase? Coming out of the closet. Now, I'm just an old priest, and I'll admit I probably spend too much time here in the church, but I don't know what that phrase means. Do you, Lieutenant Wright? Explaining this to my kids was awkward enough, but a priest, who I suspect was not exactly pro-LGBT? This was weird, but it didn't take long, and he took it much better than I expected. And somehow it also jogged my memory about the picture. I tell Father Carr that it may be a bit much to look at, but if he recognized the crucifix, it might be helpful. Lord of mercy, you found our missing crucifix. Although I think it might be a good thing that we had it replaced. That one looks a bit tarnished. I feel a bit guilty and ask if the explanation for these questions could be kept in something of a confessional confidence. He agrees and I explain, but I end with a question. Father, when did this crucifix go missing? Let's see here. If I recall correctly, it was about 5 months ago. I thank Father Carr for his time and head back to the morgue. After a consultation with Doc Young, he says that the mummification to this extent could be done in a couple of months, although it's a bit odd that there was so little muscle or skin left. I returned to my office to see if anything has popped up there. I'm greeted by Detective Manny Vasquez, who says he tracked down the Homewoods to Colorado and has spoken with them by phone. I told them we might have found their daughter, but identification is going to be sketchy. They said they would come back to town as soon as they could. Sung Ho said you took the ring. I guess you confirmed it was her? Oh, he gets to be Song Ho, and I'm still not Koopa. Damn, Manny. Yeah, we're pretty sure it's her. Well, then we might have a new suspect. They said they were having issues with her being gay and having a girlfriend. They said the girlfriend was named Gracie Tolbert. She was pretty easy to track down, and I'm having her brought in for questioning. Good job, Manny. An hour later, Gracie Tolbert is in interrogation room 1. I pull the file on her, which isn't much, and enter the room. She's taller than I would have expected, about 5.5 feet tall, kinda skinny and gothic. Reminds me of, what was her name? Fazula Balk, or however you pronounce it. The one from that movie, The Craft. She and Hella Gaza would probably have gotten along just fine.
You found her, didn't you?
She asks before I can even sit down. I'm taken aback by this a bit, but try not to let it show. I just nod.
I knew it would happen eventually. It was that cubbyhole in the closet, wasn't it?
You knew about the cubbyhole.
Of course I knew. My dad was the developer for August Acres. All the houses have those secret hidey holes, but they're all in the same spot. Damn it, I knew he was listening.
I hate being behind on something, like this conversation. Who was listening?
Okay, the last time I saw Leo, it was in church. She grew up really religious or something, and she was always having issues with her feelings for me. She went there to pray for guidance or whatever. I told her that I loved her, that she didn't have to hide our toys in the hidey hole, and I kissed her. She returned the kiss, and there was a thunk, and she fell over. One of those big cross things was sticking out of her head. I saw this old priest standing over us, and I just ran.
I'll admit to being a bit flabbergasted at this confession. And you didn't think to call this in to someone?
Call it into who? I'm in the closet with my parents, and I've got a record, right? I mean, that's what's in that folder you've got. Who's going to believe me? Everyone knows that churches are with the government. Why do you think they don't pay taxes and those priests can get away with molesting the altar boys?
I can't entirely argue with that logic. Not entirely. I tell Miss Tolbert to wait here, and I send Officer Walker to bring in Father Carr. I had to go through enough underlings during my visit to know that the only one in that church that looks old is Father Carr. And I talked with this guy. Didn't see it in him. When he's brought in, I have him charged with the murder of Leah Homewood. He immediately launches into a tirade about how I may have killed her body, but it wasn't her. She was possessed by a lesbian demon of the Fifth Order. She was a demon, I tell you. A demon! When the Homewoods finally arrive the next day, we interrogate them about how the daughter ended up in a secret compartment in a bathroom closet. They claim it was the only way to exorcise the demon from the daughter, and that while her body may be deceased, her spirit could now be free. Unlike when she was alive, I add to myself. I'm glad I'm not the district attorney on this one. Father Carr might just get off on an insanity plea. But the Homewoods, I don't even want to know. I'm just going to close the case. If you'd like to have your story on the show, which is the reason we're here, send it to us. Check out the website, twopagesproject.com. And like I said, it's the number 2, because if you spell it out, it goes somewhere completely different. There you'll find the rules and more information about how we'll take your short story and publish it first as an ebook on the website, then turn it into an audiobook on the podcast, and when we've got enough stories, we'll turn it all into an actual book that you can buy at a store. If you'd like to submit a story, email it to contact@twopagesproject.com. We'll be open to any type of story you want to send us, not just mystery, That's just what I prefer writing. But we'll take horror or sci-fi, fantasy, historical, western, melodrama, romance, whatever you want to write. Just make sure it's fictional. That's all we really ask. Just submit your story for the audiobook treatment and publishing on our website using the email address contact@twopagesproject.com. Now don't forget to pass the show around because it's free, it's fun, and hey, it gets your story more publicity. Of course, you have to send us the story first. Now don't forget to follow all the Coil Entertainment Network shows on Pinterest and YouTube, and check out the Coil Entertainment Network store where we've got shirts and hats that all go to support the network, so please check that out. And if you want the cover art for your story to become a t-shirt or a hat, let me know. I can arrange that. How cool would that be to have your story on a t-shirt? Right? See, that's what I'm saying here. Anyway, if you're interested in being part of the audiobook process, whether as a voice in the story or if you've got music that might work in the background, use that same email address, contact@twopagesproject.com. We're looking forward to hearing from you. So until next time, be safe and keep writing.